it. Hi, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to the Joy of Coding here at Portland State University. I'm David Whitlock. I am the professor for this course. I'm really excited to be here. It's always a joy to be back at Portland State, especially during the summer where it's like we can arrive here and it's still light out and it's not cold and rainy, and we'll leave. And for these couple more weeks, it'll be light when we're all done. It's just good to be back here, back on campus, and back in the classroom. I really appreciate everybody joining tonight, whether you are remote or here in person. We got a lot of stuff to cover. We're just kicking it off tonight. We'll get an introduction. Hey, we'll get an introduction to the course, and also break ground on our GitHub repository that each of us will use to store and manage the code I'll be writing this term. So we've got a lot of stuff to cover. Kick off the recording. The recording will be available on YouTube later tonight or sometime before noon tomorrow, depending how I feel when I get home. We'll dive into it. Get some introductory slides. We'll start there, and we'll get things started. So hey, we'll do the full screen so everybody can see. So, hey everybody. So tonight. We're going to do some introductions. I'll introduce myself, and I will introduce our graders who we have for this course. And then we'll focus on just learning about what we'll be doing for the next 8 weeks. So we'll learn about the course and its syllabus. I also want to hear from you about your experiences with hybrid learning. It's still relatively new to me, and I found that like every cohort of students I have, they have slightly different experiences. They know different things. There are different things that they found work for them, different things they found didn't work for them. So we'll be exploring some of that stuff tonight. And then finally, we'll talk about how we'll use Git and GitHub to manage our code for this course, and we'll make sure that everybody is enabled to do that. So first off, a little bit more about myself. I'm David Whitlock. I have been teaching at Portland State for a very long time. I've taught mainly this course. It's evolved quite a lot over the years. I'm really happy with where we are right now. I'm glad I get to teach a very broad course that covers lots of different topics, but still has very applicable and practical things that we learn. During the day, I'm an engineering director at a company called Fortran, the former Tripwire. I write cybersecurity software. Actually, I manage several teams of people that write cybersecurity software. And also, I served on the PSEP steering committee, if those of you are familiar with the internship program here in the computer science department. I served on that committee for many years. I'm a big fan of PSU. I appreciate the mission of this university, who it serves, and where it serves it. I've lived in Portland for, well, it's more than 25 years now. It was just 25 years in May. It's where I put down roots. It's home now. I'm glad to be part of this university, this community, where I have the opportunity to share what it is that I've learned and what I know with so many of you. So that's a little bit about me. We have two graders this term, Tommy Praktulthai and Nathan Meetens. They'll be our graders. They've both taken the class before, which is great. They sort of know what to expect. They've been in your seats on the other side, and now they'll be helping all of us learn together by giving us feedback, giving you all feedback on your work. So just to be clear, these are graders, they aren't TAs. So when it comes to answering questions about the content and expectations and stuff, that's for me. And I'll tell you later on when we talk about the syllabus what the best ways are to get in contact with me. Nathan and Tommy, however, they'll be assessing your quizzes and your projects. So they'll be giving you feedback on that. And again, later on, we'll talk about how many quizzes and how many projects there are and when things are. Anyway, so this is the group of people who are supporting you this term as we learn together about the joy of coding. So, like I said, I've been teaching this course for a long time, and it's evolved quite a bit, especially in like the last, I don't know, 3 or so years. You may, in some of the materials, they're a little on the older side. Still relevant, but it's things I just haven't bothered to like rebrand and stuff. So you might see references to previous incarnations of the course when it was called Contemporary Software Development, or when it was called Advanced Programming with Java. All the stuff that is linked to from the homepage is still relevant and still stuff that you need to know will help you on your journey this term. but yeah, we might just be branded or have different names associated with it. Know that this is only the second summer, the second actually it's only the second time maybe it's the third time that it's been offered twice a week. For years and years and years, I was taught like one big block on a Wednesday night. It was like 3 hours long, and I'm too old for this stuff. Right? I can't go for that long. So I've been teaching twice a week, which actually I really like. It gives everybody a little chance to breathe and sort of take in the knowledge that you learn on Monday, and then we spend time on Wednesdays applying it. However, I'm still tweaking the pacing, so I apologize if it's a little awkward at times. If it seems too fast, too slow, please let me know, and I'll adjust accordingly. So, yeah. Now, what's this course all about? I like to think that this course is talking about how software is developed in the 21st century. And because it's beyond cliche to say the world runs on software, everything that we, pretty much everything we interact with has some sort of software in it. But it's also important to realize that software is written by people. Yeah, there's AI code and everything, but at the end of the day, it's still people that are contributing software. And when you realize that the impact that those of us who are software engineers have on the world, we realize that we have a pretty important responsibility to write good, solid code that not only solves today's problem, but can evolve to solve tomorrow's problems. And we're always learning about new ways of doing things, right? You'll hear me say several times that software is the most malleable substance known to humans. We can change it so easily compared to a building or a road or a bridge or what we can do with the software allows us to iterate very quickly and to then take what we learn and invest that learning into making what we do better. So what we're talking about in this course is how to build high-quality software that provides a great experience for their users. That's really what you want to do. You want to have something that's so compelling that people will be coming back, and people will reward you with their interaction with their time and their efforts. We'll also be learning about how people can work together effectively to write software. It's a team sport. It's the myth of software engineering. Off in their cave, working alone and then coming out and poof, it's perfect. It is exactly that, a myth. It was never true, and it's even less more so true today. Because when you think about what you do, especially once you start coding professionally, you work with other people's code much more than you do your own. Yeah, sure, you get to write some code, but very rarely will you only encounter code that you wrote. Understanding how to approach a code base that's unfamiliar or to step into a middle of a project is a very important skill. And also, we'll talk about how you can build software that can evolve quickly and rapidly to meet new needs and new demands. If you write something that people like, they're going to ask for more, right? They're going to ask you to do more things. They're going to ask you to have things behave a certain way, add new features, new functionality, new capabilities. And this is a key challenge for people in our profession, people who are software developers. So those are the kinds of things that we'll be talking about in general in the course. Now, I talked a lot about software quality, and here we're going to learn about how to demonstrate the quality of your software with tests, with automated tests. In a couple of weeks, we'll be diving into something called test-driven development that allows you to build quality in your software from the very beginning. What you do is you write a test first. You say, this is what I expect my software to do, and then you write the software that does that. You write the code that does it, and then you have this test that tells you whether or not you've met that goal. So this provides you with really rapid feedback as you evolve your code base, as you add more things. And what it lets you do is go really quickly and with real confidence. So not the false confidence of course I did it right, because you probably didn't. Right? People write bugs all the time. I know I do. But when I have tests that tell me when there's a bug, I can fix it before anybody else sees it, which is a good thing. Now, also in this course, we'll be getting to experience, we'll have the opportunity to experience pair and ensemble programming. And this is where you've got multiple people, either two people or a whole team of people, bringing their minds together to build great solutions. So the things I like about working together, having a team of people work together to build software is that it makes it easier. I mean, I don't know about you, but when there's a problem I can't figure out, it hurts. It's toilsome. It uses up energy. I get tired after a while. But I found that when you're working with other people, you can share the load, and someone has an idea or has some experience that they can lend to the conversation to help you get unblocked more quickly. So you find your bugs sooner. You're able to get through the solve the problems, implement the things you want to implement faster and with higher quality. And also, when you have multiple people working on a problem, you don't have siloing, right? You have you have a whole group of people that understand the solution, understand the code, and any one of them can contribute to improving it at any time. So anyway, overall, I find that when people work together, it might be counterintuitive, but you actually go faster. You spend less time getting stuck, and you spend more time adding value to your solutions. Now, I'll say we're going to talk about leveraging code from others, and you're going to be seeing a lot of code from a lot of people. You're going to be seeing some code that I wrote and working with that. Of course, when you're pairing and mobbing with people, you'll be seeing code that other people wrote, and then you'll also be using frameworks and APIs that people who you've never met before have written. And so then this is a really important thing to experience, or a really important skill to learn, because again, the vast majority of code that you're going to interact with is not something that you wrote. So it's also a really good way to learn about programming patterns. One of the things I hope that you'll get out of learning about and studying the standard Java APIs and maybe the code that I wrote is a sense for how to do good object-oriented programming, to effectively leverage the power of an object-oriented language like Java to express your code well in a way that people can work with. And then we'll also get to experience very hands-on what it's like working with other people by sharing code in a distributed version tool. We'll use Git in this course. And in a couple of weeks, you'll all be contributing to a single repository, and you'll get experience with resolving merge conflicts and having to really dive in and learn what it's like to share code with 20 other people. And then finally, we'll be experiencing what it's like to evolve code over a series of time, because software, there's not really a done state. You can always add more things to it. You can always change it later. And you want to do this so you can provide a better experience for your users. So you'll see this in your class project, which we will introduce next week sometime, where every week you'll add a little bit more to it. You'll evolve it over time. And then we'll also, later in the term, study what's called code refactoring. This is where you take some code to improve and change it so that it's more readable, so it's easier to interact with, and it's easier to extend as more features come into play. Okay. So I do want to talk about some of the tools that we're using in this course, and particularly the language. We'll be using Java and Android in this course. Now, I admit this is not bleeding edge technology. This is not the latest and greatest. And that's okay, in my opinion, because what it does provide you with is a proven foundation for doing the things we just talked about, collaborating with others and writing extensible code and refactoring and things like that. The thing is that they aren't bleeding edge; they're very mature, and there's lots of information out there to learn about that. So you'll get to experience object-oriented APIs. You'll get to learn about the tools that come with it for building code, for refactoring code, and for doing test-driven development. And then you'll be, in your final project, you'll be building an Android application. And I hope that you see that this is a relevant platform. I'm sure some of you have Android devices, or whether it's a phone or something else. It's a really interesting way to get to apply the things that you've learned early in the course in terms of how to write good code and build something that does seem like real programming, like the kind of thing that people use. So before I dive into sort of the specifics of like how we'll run the class and stuff, any questions about the concepts I'll be learning about, the tools they'll be using here in the course? Great. The question was, hey, will our final app be a group project? Um, the group projects, there are group projects that are separate from the individual projects. So the five-phase project, five phase, yeah, is individual. It's on your own. It's assessed, as part of grade. But we'll also be doing the mobbing and the pairing, and as we'll learn about in a couple of weeks, those are assessed based on a reflection that you do. It's basically a quiz asking you about your experiences, and it's asking you to think critically about what you saw, what you observed, and what you did working in the mob or pair. Great question. Any others? Excellent. So let's talk about some of the mechanics of the course. So I've been offering this as a hybrid class for a while. So the class itself, we all get together. There was another question. Will we go over the final exam? Yes, but not for a while. On day one, I will acknowledge that there is a final exam, but there's lots of stuff between here and there. So there will be a final exam. It will be on the last day of class. I don't remember what day that is, sometime in August. Oh, there it is, final exam, August 13th. And it will be cumulative. I guess that's all I'll say right now, and we can go into more details about how that'll work. So we meet every Monday and every Wednesday at 6 p.m. on campus. I don't believe there are any holidays and stuff, so we should expect to have a class meeting every day. Hopefully there isn't a weather or other event that prevents us from meeting. I'm here on campus, every session. I do much better, as is my family, when I'm here speaking loudly. And we'll have, I want this to be interactive, whether you're here in person or you're remote. So we'll have in-class discussions. We'll talk about the topic. We'll talk about the topic du jour. You'll see me demonstrate lots of things. I'll be coding a lot in front of you. I'll be showing you off the tools, those kinds of things. And then we'll have group activities where we all work together. So I broadcast, I stream all of the classes live on Zoom. If you can't or won't make, or if you're not going to be on campus, please join live, because there are real-time aspects of the course that I want to make sure that you can consume. I want you to have an opportunity to ask your questions in real time. It'll give you a better experience. However, I realize that not everybody can be here every session, and that a lot of people benefit from being able to review the recording afterwards, to figure out, oh, what did he say, or go back and watch things either at half speed or 2x speed, depending on how well you consume what I'm saying. So I do post the recordings on YouTube, usually within 24 hours. Well, always within 24 hours of the end of class. You can find my YouTube channel on the homepage. If you want to be notified, you can subscribe, do all that kind of stuff. Now, it is hybrid, which means that the vast majority of the time you can be remote, like many people are tonight. That's perfectly fine. However, there are 3 sessions in which I do ask that you be here in person for activities that are intended to be in person in the classroom activities. The first, they're all on Wednesdays. The first one is on Wednesday, July 9th. That'll be our first pair programming exercise. The second pair programming exercise happens the week after that on the 16th. And there you can attend in person or be remote. But for this first one, I'd like you to be in person. As a matter of fact, you have to be in person. I will not be offering a remote option. I'll be turning off the Zoom during that point. On July 30th, we'll have our first mob programming session. And then again, on August 13th, we'll have the final exam. So the final exam is in person. Otherwise, you're not required to be here. Now, I will say this. I believe, and based on the feedback that I've got from students, you will have a better experience if you're here. If you are, not distracted by the things at home, if you're here on campus, if you have an opportunity to look me in the eye when I'm talking with you, a chance to, talk to me before and after class, I think you'll get more out of it. That being said, it can be a pain to be downtown, and certainly as the summer goes on, it'll be darker at night. It's not always super fun to be here when it's dark. So I understand that you're adults. and you know how best to manage your time. And so then on any given week, or just not at all, if you prefer to be at home, that's fine. But there are 3 times where I do request, or actually where I do require that you be here. Any questions about how attendance works in this hybrid class? Yeah. Um, yeah, and so as Sam points out, if you look on BandWeb or whatever, it does say Monday, always remote, Wednesday, always in person. It can't represent my particular schedule, and so then that's the option that they have. So I don't think there is a hybrid designation anymore, or rather, when they ask me about hybrid, they say, well, please choose one day which is in person. When okay, fine. Right. But yeah, so these are the rules. That being said, I always like to see you, and so you can come by anytime. Anything else? I'll chat. Okay. So, like I said, hybrid learning, I'm finding that we're just still optimizing and figuring out how to do it best. And I'm really curious to learn about your experiences with hybrid learning. I'd like to understand what's been effective for you in other classes, what's been ineffective, right? Where are things where it's just like, when the professor did this, it really sucked. And maybe some ideas that you have. It's like, oh, wow, I was thinking about it, and I might be able to try this. I want to hear from you. So what I'd like you to do is break up into small groups, 3 or 4 people, and I'll create some breakout rooms for people who are remote, and capture ideas on this Google Docs that I have here. Oops. And I will post this in the meeting chat. I also send it out as an invitation, sorry, as an announcement in activity. An announcement in Canvas, so hopefully everybody's got that. And I'm just going to pause the recording, and then we will we'll take, I don't know, 10 or so minutes, and just go through that. And so what I'd like you to do is all collaborate on this page, and fill out things after talking with your group. Brainstorm ideas of things that have gone well with hybrid learning, things that haven't worked well in hybrid learning, and then ideas you have for this particular course. Before we dive in, though, any questions? Yeah. 3 or 4 people. So, I mean, we got like 2 groups here in the classroom, right? Yep. Yep. And let's see here. And then also, then I will go into some breakout rooms after I pause the recording. Awesome. Well, I'm really curious to what you had to say. I was skimming over things. Seems like people appreciate the flexibility of hybrid learning. And so then, clearly the fact that, hey, you don't have to, commute from downtown Portland. It's, gone are the days when many students are like living affordably in downtown Portland. So totally get that. And I like some of so clearly having, having Zoom so you can have recordings, so you can have the transcriptions. I may just get a chuckle out of how the AI is trying to interpret what I'm saying. All good stuff there. Are there any other things that worked well that people like to highlight? Something that was maybe engendered a good conversation in your group, or something that you wanted to sort of amplify as part of the discussion? Yeah. Something you like, not being called on to speak. I get it. Huh? Yeah, break it. Yeah. Yeah, was that the breakout rooms ease of communication, but also breakout rooms difficulty in communication? Yeah, so, yeah. Okay, so like people have had different experiences depending on the class and on the topic. Okay, no, that's cool. Yeah, we'll use breakout rooms a handful times during the course. There'll be a couple more activities, especially here in the first couple of weeks, where we'll do things like this, where we'll break into small groups and do some collaboration to sort of get us started for the activity for that night. So something that I'll keep an eye on is making sure that the breakout rooms are as effective as we can make them. But I think, as people pointed out here, make sure your breakout room isn't silent. Awkward silence is okay for a little while, but then it gets awkward. Excellent. Poor connections. Days aren't specified ahead of time or reminders aren't set out. I'll refer everybody to the course homepage that has all of the here we go. Has notes like this for every day. I guess I also have stuff. If you look at the Canvas calendar, I do have all the things on there. I don't think I call out though which ones are required to be in person. But because they're Wednesdays, I'll remind everybody on Monday that, hey, this is one of the Wednesdays when you're going to have to be here in person. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, questions in chat versus shout them out. Honestly, I think I prefer people coming off mute and asking them, but because I don't always see the chat pop up, or like when it does, it's like 25 seconds after right. So my head, I've already moved on. But I realize for some people they're trying to still figure out like what I'm saying, and so if they come off mute, or if they raise their hand, I don't know how well I'll see that. Just come up to you and say, hey, I'm Dave. And I'm don't mind being distracted. You pay me good money to get distracted, so it's all right. Well, okay, you pay me money, but yeah, it's pretty good. We'll complain. See here, what other observations? Self-pacing when attending digitally. Yeah, this isn't one of those self-paced courses. There's a pace here. There's a reason. Primarily, I think it keeps people on track to have deadlines. Assignments are due for a reason. But also, I don't want to be grading project 1 on the last day of class, right? The graders and I have moved on by that point. So we'll talk about shortly. We'll talk about the syllabus. Yep, there is a schedule. We have a lot of due dates over the next 8 weeks. Sometimes lectures are long and our minds mentally checked out. In this course, yeah, the lectures are long. It's 2.5 hours. I try to take one break. I think for 2 hours, it was 2 hours and 20 minutes. So probably like one 10-minute break in the middle, somewhere between 7 and 7:30. Yeah, and if you find yourself struggling to pay attention, and if you're at home, try being here, or vice versa. If hey, you're in the back of the classroom, dozing off or whatever. Yeah, maybe at home where you can get up and walk around, or just go to the kitchen with the with the headphones on or whatever, so that you can do what you need to do. It is I want to make sure that you're engaged so you can get the most out of your time. Awesome. So any other things that haven't worked well that people want to highlight? Anything that you want to make sure that I know and that I internalize in terms of things that are ineffective for you when it comes to hybrid learning? See here, I didn't see that anybody call out any ideas. That's okay. Maybe it sounds like you have a pretty good idea of what it is that you like and don't like in each, for hybrid learning. That's okay. Like I said, I appreciate feedback no matter when it comes and in what form. So please, if you find me doing something ineffective that you want me to change, let me know. Also, if you find me doing something effective, they want me to amplify, do more of, yeah, let me know that too. This is how we can make sure that what you get provided with is the best thing for you. Awesome. Thank you for taking some time for filling that out. Anything else that people would want to share, either remotely or here in the classroom? Great question. So, yeah, the pairs and the mobs, we get to choose, they'll be assigned. I'm not going to assign people. You know what? I think that reminds me, though, I've been meaning to have some sort of, like, exercise where everybody, like, it would be like a deck of cards and whoever gets the cards will be paired up. But, oh, you're laughing about that? Have you done it before? Or, what was that? Yeah, okay, yeah, I don't. I don't know. When I teach it in the winter, we get 3 opportunities to pair, 3 opportunities to mob. Um, since we only have 2 in the summer, I don't know how important it is really that you get randomized. I think sometimes when it's not randomized, then the people that like are familiar with each other are like, okay, yeah, you could have as well as I do. Let's work together and get things done really quickly. It's a little different experience, but I don't know. I also don't want to take the time to try to assign people even if it's random. So. Yeah, so if you I don't know if you're like looking to like fill your dance card now, go ahead and get started. But no, we'll be worrying about that couple of weeks. So I guess bottom line is unless I get inspired, it'll just be you guys choose, form your own pairs, form your own blocks. Awesome. Okay. Well, hey, thank you everybody for giving me this information, for conveying what you think about what your experiences have been with hybrid learning. Let's see here. I think it's pretty much the end of the slides. Yeah, great. So I'll talk about the syllabus next, and then we'll take a break, and then we'll finish up class by getting started with our Git and GitHub projects, or Git and GitHub repositories. Okay, this is the course homepage. Yeah, I've got stuff on Canvas. I want better control over the presentation of an organization of all of my stuff, and so then I have my homepage instead. There are links back to this from Canvas and stuff, but for me, this is the definitive source of truth for everything in the course. It has every session laid out, so you know what to expect. And every given class has links to all the materials that you need. As I post the recordings of the class, they'll show up here also. They'll after the week, there will be a little screencast part 1 or part 2 that shows up. So it has also links off to various resources, various other pages that are relevant to the course. There was a little bit of prelude if you wanted to like do some prep work. Don't worry though, we'll be covering the important stuff later on. Tonight, I want to talk about next up the course syllabus, which is really small. So, the goal for the Joy of Coding is to explore topics in contemporary software development, like we're talking about in the slides, right? This is working with others, this is learning about object-oriented programming, this is getting to build a non-trivial piece of software over time, and to really to have fun doing it. I hope that I'm serious about the joy part of the Joy program. I hope that even though I'm sure there'll be times it'll be challenging, that overall this is an enjoyable course, that it's an experience that further reinforces the pleasure that you can find in writing code and being creative, right, and building something for others to use. So we'll be doing this in several ways. We have lectures that are, well, actually, sorry, we have the lectures that are recorded online that are linked to, and you can find those here again on the course homepage. Like for instance, here it's always this review the following materials. So for tonight, we'll be talking about Git. And if you want a refresher on Git, or maybe there's some things you want to dive deeper into, you can learn about that by clicking here. You'll get the slides for all about Git. And you can also watch the lectures on YouTube by getting a link to the screencasts here. So, hi. I'm Kermit the Frog. Okay. And so then this is what I expect you to do before class, obviously not tonight, is to watch over the lecture, because it'll be relevant to what it is that we cover, what we explore for that class. And so then for Wednesday, please, if you want to learn a little bit more about Git, or you want to do a review, watch that. And then also on Wednesday, we'll start talking about the Java programming language, and I recommend, and I encourage you, I request that you go over, that you watch or study the notes for that lecture also. So that's where the lecture material is. That's how you learn things. This isn't a course with a textbook. Sorry, this isn't like turn to chapter 3 and then that'll be the third week of class. I just don't know how to teach like that. That seems, I'm sorry, can't do that. We'll also, beyond the asynchronously delivered lectures, we'll be having conversations here in class. I'll be showing things off. You'll be experimenting with stuff on your own through pair and mob programming. There's also a multi-phase project that you'll build up over the majority of the course. We'll introduce this next week. So for this week, the assignment that we'll talk about on Wednesday isn't really part of the course. It's a activity. It's a way for you to learn about the Java programming language. We'll talk about project 1 next week. And there are quizzes and exams. There's one about every week. Actually, there's one that's due next week, which is all about Git. And so then and actually I say exams, there's really just the final exam. There's not a midterm exam in here. Instead, there's a survey, but we'll talk about that in a couple of weeks. So this is what you'll be doing. This is how you'll be assessed in the course. I'll dive into a little bit of details about that in a minute. We're going to talk about a lot of things in this course. We're going to talk about the Java programming language. We're going to talk about the standard Java APIs, the class libraries, everything from utility classes that give you data structures to performing I/O. We'll see how object-oriented programming is applied through all this. We'll also be doing a lot of testing. We'll learn about unit testing. We'll start talking about that next week. We'll do test-driven development, so you'll see how you can write tests first to make sure that the code that you write behaves as expected. And we'll also be learning about how to leverage a build system called Maven to build your Java projects. As you'll learn about, there are lots of pieces, parts, and it helps to have a tool to put it all together. We'll be learning about coding with other people through mob programming and pair programming. And then we'll also be learning about object-oriented programming and how to refactor code to make it easier to work with. So that's kind of the first part of the course. In the second part of the course, we dive deeper. So we'll be learning about the fundamentals of web application development by developing a REST API. We'll have a little bit of content about dependency injection, so looking at that as a design pattern, and then also testing with what are called mock objects as a more sophisticated way of testing. And then we will, then the course culminates in a project where we learn about using Android to develop small user interfaces for small devices. And so that's all I can fit in 8 weeks. So then, the bottom line is that there is a lot here, but there have been hundreds of students who've taken this course over the years, and it's while the feedback that I've gotten is that it's a lot of work, that it's doable, and that there's enough of rhyme and reason to it that as long as you can keep up and as long as you don't get too behind at the beginning, you'll be fine and enjoy the process along the way. Before I move on, any questions about the topics to be covered or sort of generally how we will what we'll do in the course? Question here in chat. Does dependency injection mean Spring? No, it doesn't. So I'm not a big fan of Spring. I know everybody uses it, but we'll be talking more about just like the general dependency injection pattern. There was a while, at one point in the course I did have people learn about the Juice framework for doing dependency injection, but we didn't really have a chance to apply it, so I took it out. There are questions. Okay. Grading policies. So here's how your letter grade is determined. The vast majority of your grade is determined by the code that you write. And so this is the multi-phase project that we'll learn about next week, and also the Java koans that we'll learn about tomorrow, or sorry, learn about on Wednesday next time. This is 60% of your grade, so spread over several assignments that you submit and are graded. 21% are determined by the quizzes. There are 8 quizzes. We dropped the lowest grade. They're each worth 3%, so for a total of 21%. Those are administered online using Canvas, and they are due right before class. Both the projects and the quizzes are due before class because I want you to be in class. I want you to participate, not be working on your projects. Additionally, there are 2 what I call reflection assignments, one about pair programming, one about mod programming. where you'll be asked to reflect on your experiences mobbing and pairing. Each of those is worth 3.5%. And with regards to mobbing and pairing, there are 2 opportunities to pair, 2 opportunities to mob. They're all on Wednesday nights. Please plan on participating in all 4 sessions so that you have an opportunity to experience pairing and mobbing multiple times. I think you'll find the second time you do it is pretty different than the first time because you have a better expectation of what to do. Plus, we'll be working on a little bit more of an interesting programming problem the second time. And the reflections are also Canvas quizzes. There's a final exam in this course. It's worth 12%. 12%, is a noteworthy part of your grade, but it's not going to make or break you, right? This isn't one of those courses where you can ignore everything until the last week of the course, cram everything into your head and then pass get a good grade in the course just by passing the final exam. I don't work that way. So then, the final exam, it is cumulative. It is meant to assess everything and your complete understanding of all the topics in the course, but it's only worth 12%. Now, when it comes to the project submissions, you do have 2 late days that you can use at any time during the term. As I said, the projects are due right before class on Wednesdays. So then, again, you can use 2 late days on the same assignment, or you can do you can use one-on-one assignment, use a second on the other assignment. You can also resubmit a project for regrading, and the intent here is that the resubmit is to be used when there's something fundamentally you didn't understand with the assignment, or you got like one thing wrong and caused all the test cases to fail. I'm not going to give you a super low grade because of that. I want to give you an opportunity to fix the problem and then get the grade that you likely deserve. And so then I will accept one project to be resubmitted for regrading within 1 week of the original grading. You can't resubmit project 1 on the last day of class. I'm not going to let you do that. Here again, the intent is like, oh, look, you made a mistake, and you figured out the mistake, and you want to regrade it with no penalty. Otherwise, my policy is not to accept any other late work. That being said, I want you to be successful in the course. And so then, hey, if you already used your 1 resubmit and you made another mistake, let's talk about it. Let's figure it out. Ultimately, like I said, I want you to be successful. I want you to learn from the feedback that you get from the graders. And so then, I don't want you to give up. Let's talk about it if there's something that you didn't understand or you got feedback that you wanted to take action on. Let's see here. My policy is to grade, have the letter grades being graded on a curve, but I haven't had to do that in years. I found that students, pretty much adhere to the curve. Yep, we have a bunch of people that have A's, a couple people that do B's, a smattering of C's and lower in the course. That being said, I reserve the right to curve if I think it makes sense. And there is a different curve for the graduate section and the undergraduate section of the course, although there are only a handful of graduate students in here at this time, so I don't know if that's, here again, I'm probably not going to have it. We'll see. Again, on the graduate versus undergraduate, it's there are different sections of the course. Like I said, they are graded on different curves, but it's essentially the same content. So I haven't found a way to really distinguish the two in a way that I think is meaningful. So it's the same content with the same criteria. So any questions on the grading policies about how things will be graded and what you're expected from a grading standpoint? Yeah.
If we have to use
that's a good question. So, yeah, hey, if I'm going to resubmit, if I'm going to use a late day, do you need to inform me? No, actually, you don't. The program that you use to submit records timestamps, so I'll know if it's late. So let me be responsible for the bookkeeping. If you, sometimes I miss a resubmission or whatever, and so then if you haven't heard any feedback, it's like, hey, I submitted that, resubmitted that a couple days ago. Did you get it? Yeah, please ping me on that. Otherwise, no, you don't need to inform me. But of course, if you do have questions, I do appreciate it if you reach out. Um, Again, I'm here for you. They're paying. Well, actually, I'm here for you. Yeah. They're paying me to support you, but I also, I want to make sure that you understand the material and that you get what you want to get out of the course. See here, another question. Would you say that with efficient work, an A is possible? Yes, I think it is. I think there's lots of proof to that over the years. Again, the feedback that I get is, once people start to make it through, they're like, yeah, that was a pretty challenging course, but it was, it was doable once I, figured out things people figure out. And so if there's some things that maybe stumble over it with, stumble over at the beginning, that's okay, because this is how we learn, right? Mistakes are good teachers. I know I've made plenty over the years, and as long as you don't repeat your mistakes, you'll be fine, because over time you'll make fewer mistakes, or make different mistakes, and learn from each one of them. Have the previous class averages, were they near an A? I don't know about that. Let's see here. I think it's fair to say that probably over the years, yeah, about half the students have gotten an A, if not more, depending on the section. So I think um, the feedback that I've gotten over the years, or rather, I'll say this: when I've talked with the students who have done best in the course, their primary piece of advice uh, is to not get behind. I think it's fair to say that this is one of those courses where there's a lot of material. I mean, you look at the stuff here, and if you look for well, let's see here. Let's look for where to assign, because that's when a project is. So there's 6 projects that are assigned. You got the koans, you got project 1, and it's like every week, or actually, things get assigned in a pretty rapid fashion, because there's only 8 weeks to the course. And so then, here again, the most important piece of advice that people, have passed forward over the years is to not get behind. So keep up with the lectures, and then also, like for instance, on Wednesday we'll be talking about the Java koans. Start them on Thursday, right? Even though they're not due for a couple of weeks, start them right away. There's a lot of things, and the way the course is laid out is that, yeah, there are concurrent assignments that are open at the same time. That's one of the meta lessons of the course, is to how to manage your time. So it's one of the meta lessons of college. It's kind of why you're doing this. It's not just to learn particular pieces of information. It's really to learn how to navigate the complexity of managing your time and your work and your responsibilities. And so then, this course is no different. Okay. No, those are great questions, Michael. Thank you for asking them. Is there anything else on grading policies? Let's talk about do not cheat. Okay. It hasn't happened lately, but it has happened in the past. That people will just like outright plagiarize. And the reason I know this is because I have a tool that tells me. So there's this tool called Moss that was developed at Stanford a long time ago. It's really good at detecting software plagiarism. I just send all the files to it, and side by side, it's like, oh yeah, look, there's high overlap here, and it's smart enough to know if you've removed comments, you've renamed variables or function names and stuff like that. It'll make it really obvious. Like I said, there hasn't been an incident of cheating in a couple years, but when it is, I gotta admit, it angers me. I try not to get, I very rarely get angry, but it's like, listen, folks, it's cheating and plagiarizing in the real world has serious impacts on people. First of all, you're probably stealing somebody else's information, and it's the kind of thing where here, yeah, you might get an F in the course. In the real world, you can lose your job. You can get sued. Your company can get sued. Yeah. So, don't pick up bad habits as a student, by cheating. And so there's, but as is everything, there's some nuance, right? Because we do mob programming, we do pair programming. I want people to work together on those activities. So just to be crystal clear, and I'll reinforce this. When you are mobbing and when you're pairing with someone else, yes, of course, collaborate, talk, and look at each other's code, and share, and have all those great conversations. But for your individual projects, it's individual work. Now, hey, if you're hanging out in the lab with someone and you're drawing pictures on the whiteboard, maybe you've got a question, yeah, that's fine, fine. Go ahead and and talk about things. I think my rule of thumb is that just don't look at anybody else's code, and if you don't look at their code, there's no way that you'll even get close to cheating or plagiarizing. So also, please don't commit your code to a public GitHub repository or any other public forum. So don't be, I don't know, pasting it into your Discord channel or whatever it is that you use, right? Um, uh, just make sure to keep your code as your code. I don't know. I feel like I'm dwelling on this. If you want to, understand more about this, there's the academic misconduct page. If you want to use an AI coding assistant in this course, let's talk about it. As a matter of fact, I would encourage you to use an AI coding assistant for this course because I want to know if an AI coding assistant is actually helpful to students. I use GitHub Copilot at work all the time, and I really like it. It makes it easier for me to code. But it occurred to me that I can tell when the AI gets it wrong. I've been doing it for a long time. I'm really familiar with it. I kind of know what it's supposed to be like in my head and stuff. And I've learned the hard way that I need to write tests first, especially for the code that the AI generates. You all, on the other hand, probably don't. Well, I'm sure you don't have, or at least I would expect that you didn't have, the same kind of experience that I did. Now, on the one hand, the code that's generated by the AI might be very helpful to you. It might help you learn the concepts quicker. I like that. That's a good thing. Nothing wrong with that. On the other hand, if it does stuff that you don't understand or does stuff that is wrong and you don't realize it, it can waste a lot of your time. So I'm really interested in your experiences. And so then if you want to use an AI coding assistant, go for it and let me know because I want to know what it was like. And maybe in some future iteration of the course, I may have it be some sort of requirement, but I don't know exactly how to integrate that. And I certainly wouldn't want to have people waste a lot of time if they find out that the AI code isn't right for them. So anyway, do I gotta? Nice. Oh, thanks for that link, Ed. About Junie. I haven't used that one yet. Like I said, I use GitHub Copilot. But yeah, there's tons of AI coding assistants out there. And I'm really curious, what your experience would be like. Anything else on cheating? I'm tired of talking about it. Yeah, go do it. Lots of little things. So, like I said, the lecture notes and the screencasts are available on the website. Please look at them before class. Again, don't wait until the last minute to start the projects. As a matter of fact, I don't know, next week we'll talk about a mechanism that I have that forces you to think about the project before the last minute. We'll also be talking about how to document your code. I have some requirements for that. I'll give you experience there. Oh, a good question. If the AI-generated code is detected as plagiarism by Moss, will that kind of get us academically? I don't think it will be, because Moss only looks at your all's code, and it'll be interesting to see if the AI generates the same code in the same way. I'm guessing that it won't. But if it does, we'll figure that one out, Jacob. I think you bring up a good point. I don't know if it will. And so then, if there is evidence of what appears to be plagiarism, we'll definitely talk about it. It's not like I'm going to, send you directly to the principal's office. But it would be an interesting finding if, there's evidence of what appears to be plagiarism when it's just AI generating the same code. And maybe the projects are simple enough that that'll happen. I don't know. We'll find out. Yes, Michael, my understanding is that Moss only looks at code that was submitted by the class. And so then, yes, I mean, if you go and take something from Stack Overflow or some public GitHub repository, it's probably not going to find it, but that's okay. We're going to try so hard. Yes, absolutely, yes. And so then, uh, the goal is to, you know, write projects that meet the expectations of the assignment, and you know, the and honestly, I think the big lesson of AI code assistance is that the the challenging thing, the valuable thing, isn't the act of typing the code, of generating the syntax. It is figuring out how to solve the problem, and then having enough understanding of the problem to be able to validate that yes, the solution is the right one, even if the AI just made it up. So again, the AI coding is still pretty new, but it's something that I want to get some data on. And so again, please share your experiences with me and with others with AI coding. And if it, actually, I wouldn't mind if the outcome is like, oh, great, I was able to do the assignment in like, 10 minutes. It's like, really? Cool. Now we have more assignments. So just be careful. Nice. Please ask questions. I'm here for you and to answer your questions. Please don't be blocked. Now, of course, give some things some thought. And actually, I think here, shortly I'll talk about the kind of information I'd like you to ask in your include in your questions. But honestly, one of the best skills that you can learn is how to formulate a good question to someone else. It's something that even today, many years into my career, it's something that I apply every day because, hey, there are things that we don't know and things we need to find out. And so how do being able to ask a question effectively is an important skill to have. Like I said, there's a big workload. I have lots of code examples. Go work with them. Office hours are held an hour before class on Zoom and by appointment. And so, hey, if it's, if you need some extra time, I'm usually available on the weekends, evenings, not so much these days because I'm teaching twice a week. But hey, if you need to get together and just like, you're having some problem with IntelliJ or just like something maybe isn't working, or you just, want to run something by me, I will try to be as available as I can. Slack. If you haven't already, please join the Slack workspace in that the CS department sort of has. Hopefully you've got an account on there and used it in your other classes. I think I do have an invitation link on Canvas to it. This is where I will do the majority of my communicating. So I find Canvas to be too clunky to communicate. The days of using email lists and stuff, again, too clunky. I like the brevity of Slack. I like the real-time alerts. And so then that's what I'll be using for most communication. So like, hey, if I've got something I want you to know, like, oh yeah, here's what we'll be covering in class, or hey, there's been a change in the schedule, or hey, remember the assignments due tomorrow, things like that. I will post there. And then also, I encourage you all to post in the general channel. Now, if you've got a question that's like very specific to you, especially about your grade or other things that aren't that aren't meant for public consumption. Hey, I'm sick and I'm not going to be there, or whatever. Yeah, DM those to me. That's what I don't mind. Otherwise, I encourage you to ask more general questions in the public channel. So just say hey, about the project. Oh, there's something about there's a requirement they don't quite understand, or oh hey, is this the right behavior? Or just sort of general Java coding questions. Oh, hey, what does this API do? Or hey, is it good form? Please put those out in public. That way, everybody can benefit from the response. And when you do that, I encourage you to include enough information in your question so that it is actionable. So when there's something that you don't expect, say, hey, here's what I did, here's what I expected, here's what I observed. If I've had lots of students over the years say, oh well, I ran Maven and it didn't work. I don't know what to do with that. And actually that kind of like, I roll my eyes and I try to, I delete like 3 snarky replies and then I get professional again, right? That just, saves time. And it just wastes a lot of time me doing that. So, please, say, hey, if there was an error message, what was the error message? Send me a screenshot or copy and paste the text of the output of what you see, so that I and others can work with it. Other ways to get in touch with me is via email. I have one of those old school cs@pdx.edu email addresses that I like. If you want to use my at PDX, please note that I am Whitlow CD. Someone else got to Whitlock before I did, I guess, and so then this is me. Either one of those work. Oh, note that also on the email front, the grader, I have a grader account that I use for sending you like the feedback on your projects and other things like that. It's sometimes marked as spam, so be sure to check your junk email folder or whatever for information about your project grades. Once again, the course webpage is my homepage at CS Department. It's where I encourage you to go for all the information about the course. And after the break, we'll be talking about the survey script and how to do all of that. It's really important that you do that and do that shortly because it makes sure that you can run Java in your environment. It gives me some information about who you are, and it's the thing that counts as your initiation of attendance for the university. Right? There's for the last couple of years there's a requirement where I have to attest that yes, everybody who's registered for the course has participated in course in the first week or two, and this is what counts. So that was a lot. Any general questions about the course, about the things we've covered here in the syllabus? That's kind of a 10 in my head. So excellent then. Okay, cool. So I'm looking at the clock at 7:14. I think it's time for a break. Let's take 11 minutes. We will reconvene at 7:25. Hey, let's pick it back up again. So in the first part of class, we were getting an introduction tonight, right? So all sorts of stuff, and you're hearing a lot more from me maybe than you would in other courses. And so then we started talking about the mechanics of the course and the outline. Let's start talking about some code. Let's start doing some real stuff. So we write a lot of code in this course. We write a lot of code together. We write a lot of code individually, and that code's going to change over time. We want to manage that code and manage it as it changes in a revision control system. So we'll be using Git in this course. Now, show of hands, people in the classroom, and I don't know, react somehow on Zoom. Who here has used Git before? Everything from like strong hands up to maybe a little bit. People remote. Okay. Is it covered in your other courses? Do other professors have you do they teach it sort of like you go figure it out on your own? Sort of what's been your experience working with Git? Yep. Okay. So yeah, sort of fundamental stuff about like here's how to add something, here's how to commit something. Okay, cool. Branching. Talk much about branching. Okay, a little bit about branching. Okay, cool. If it's been a while, or if you want more review, you just want to dive in, I prepared a lecture on it that goes into everything that I think you'll need to know for this course, maybe a little bit beyond. For Git, it is I think honestly in the whatever it is 20+ years it's been available, I think it's probably like the most essential developer tool of all time. I mean, even more so than like GCC. It's like, wow, this is just something that everybody uses. It is the de facto source code management tool because it's really good, and there's great support for it in other tools and things like that. So anyway, we'll be using it here. Okay, good. Glad people are familiar with Git. People have talked about, yes, they've used before. Awesome. Okay, how many people have used GitHub? GitHub, again, maybe not so many people. Okay. Okay, or GitLab, very similar. Yeah. I prefer GitHub myself. But yeah, okay, great. So in this course, we'll be using GitHub. So what GitHub is a, Git in the cloud. It's your Git repositories that are up there in the cloud. And so this makes it easy to move code between various machines, because everything goes through source control, so you know that you've got a good snapshot in time. We'll be using Git a lot in this course, and tonight we're going to get started with creating the repository that you'll use for all of your code. So if we go to the Getting Started repository, and I'll post this link in the meeting chat, and I probably should have put it also in that announcement that I made. I apologize about that. So if you go to git.com/joyofcodingpdx, so that's the organization for this class, /getting started. This is the repository that you use to, well, get started with the course. The README for this, if you scroll down, you'll see the README. This provides a lot of detail about working with this repository and writing the code in the course. I originally, used this as a way to make it so that people didn't have to use Maven so much and have to install Maven. We'll learn about Maven a little later in the course. But really has grown to be sort of the starting point, the home base of the code that you write. So what we're going to do now is actually sort of like go through all of this. So I'm going to show you on my machine how to do things, and feel free to play along if you've got everything installed. And so if you already have access to a machine that runs Git, and actually if you use the PSU machines, which I will be doing, I think you'll be able to do almost everything here. And so then we'll be using the command line tool for Git. You'll need an account on GitHub, and so if you don't have one of those, I have some links on how to do that. And then we will go through the process of creating the repository and getting a check on the PSU machine, and running the survey program. I think that'll be a good exercise for tonight. So let's get started here. Okay, so we have this repository. Now, the Getting Started repository is configured in GitHub to be something called a template repository, which means that it's really easy for you to create a copy of this repository. It's not a fork, per se, and as a matter of fact, it can't be a fork because I want the repository that you create to be private. This is the repository in which all of your project code will be stored. So the first thing to do is to create a new repository using this template. So I will say create a new repository using this template. It goes to this page, and it says it's got all the project files, and you want to create it from the Joy of Coding PDX and Getting Started. Don't need to include all the branches. Yes. And so you want to create it in your organization, the organization associated with your user. And I recommend that you use for a name, oops, my browser just went crazy, there we go. Joy of Coding Summer 2025. That's the convention that I like to use. You can use whatever you want, but I found that this is the one that works best for me. You don't need to have a description. You are going to make yours private because, again, all of this code is yours. You don't want it to be publicly accessible. I will make mine public so that all of you can see the code that I write in class and contribute to it. Any code that I write is fair game for you. As a matter of fact, see later in the course, I think when we get to the REST API project, I'll take I'll work with what's started to evolve the project, and you're free to use that for your own. But please make sure to create a private repository. If anyone's playing along, has any questions, well, pause for that. Everybody's able to get to this point. Okay, yeah. Sam, got everything? Okay. Okay, yours should be private, mine will be public. I'll say create that repository. So it's creating a repository of my very own. Great. And here it is. And so it has all the files that are in there. It's all the initial commit. It was created just now. And it has the same README. And so then you can follow along here. So okay, great. You've created the repository. Now, when you create your repository, I encourage you to make me a collaborator on it. Um, when you ask a question, when something's not working for you, it's so much easier for both of us if I have access to your code. Um, if I can just, pull it down from GitHub, take a look at it myself, run it in my own environment. I can even, propose pull requests. I can say, oh yeah, here's what you do to fix it, or oh hey, yeah, sorry, you got into a messed up state. Here's how you can get back to something more stable. While it's not required, I encourage you to do that. It'll make it easier to for me to work with your code. Note that the things that what I'll be showing you tonight is using Git on either the PSU Linux machines or my Mac. I don't have examples for working on Windows. It's just about the same, especially if you're using something like Git CMD or Git Bash. Well, actually, if you're using Git Bash, it'll be very close to what I'm using. Or if you're using Git CMD, you'll be using Windows isms. And then something that I do want to note is that if you've been using GitHub a long time, it used to support the HTTPS protocol for doing clones and things like doing pushes and pulls using just username and password credentials. They don't support that anymore. You'll need to authenticate with SSH keys or a personal access token. And I'm not going to go through examples of that now. If you encounter problems and the online documentation doesn't help you, please ask in the Joy of Coding channel, because if you're having problems, someone else probably is too. Okay, well, so now I've created my repository, and now I want to make a clone of it. And so then I will do that. Actually, what I'm going to do, let's see here. That's not the right account. I am going to log into the CS machines. I'm going to do just the Linux cluster. So let's see, cs.pdx.u. I'm going to SSH as me into there. I'm going to make a checkout of my repository. So I have a lot of checkouts. I like to keep things organized. So I've got like all my David Whitlock repositories right here. I have one from winter still hanging around. So now I'm going to clone the new repository that I just created by going up here under the code menu and copying the URL. I use SSH keys for authentication, so I want this URL. You can also get, if you're using the GitHub command line interface, which actually is a great tool, you can get it that way, or if you're using HTTPS with your authentication token, you can get the URL that way. But I'm going to use just the SSH one. So I'm going to clone that right here. And so git clone. No. You don't need to include the branches. I don't think there's really anything that will help you in there. So just go ahead. You don't need to include the branches when you create the repository. Good question. Okay. Now I've just cloned the repository from GitHub onto local repository here on the PDX machine. Right, and so this is what this is one of my favorite things about Git, is that basically you have multiple copies of the source code in different places, and you can then use Git to move changes from one development environment to another through GitHub by pushing and pulling. Okay, so now I've got myself Joy of Coding, and this is summer 2025. Good. Now I've got the checkout here, and actually let me just got all the files there, and I can look at git log. It should have like one revision in it. Yep, that was me. Great, it's done all that. Okay, so now I've got my checkout. I'll go back to the README here, and we can follow along. So now that I've got my checkout, I want to make sure that I can do Java stuff. So in this course, and so then Java has a set of tools associated with it called the Java Development Kit. This is like the Java compiler, you can the Java runtime, the thing that generates the documentation, all that kind of stuff. You'll learn about it over the next couple of weeks in the course. You need to make sure that you are running at least version 17 of Java. And the way you can find out what version of Java that you're running is by doing java-version, just one dash. This is on the PSU machines. The environment that I have is running Java 21, which should be perfectly fine for this course. Now, those of you who are playing along from home, if you've gotten to the point where you do a Java version, are you seeing at least Java version 17 in your environments too? Hope so. Question here in chat: what's the difference between using at linux.cs versus going to Ada or Babbage directly? Oh, I don't remember exactly what's what anymore. So I use the Linux because there's a cluster of Linux machines. So there's like 3 Linux machines, one of which might be Ada. So like I'm on Ruby right now because it says actually if I just do hostname, I'm on Ruby. But like if I log out of here and I go to a different machine, I may or may not get the same one again. Yeah, I'm now on Rita. I don't know. I just always do that. I'd like to think that the load balancer, sends me to a machine where there aren't other people. Because there's a shared file system across all these machines, I don't really care which machine I'm on, right? So I just go to, get David Whitlock, Joy of Coding, Summer 2025. I see the same thing. So the linux.cs.pdx.edu, linux.cecs.pdx.edu is a cluster of machines. That's just what I use. And then, it looks like Michael has some details like, Babbage is 64-bit. Linux is, really, Linux is, these are 32-bit machines? Really? I didn't realize we still had 32-bit machines. Okay. Sounds good. Actually, I'm curious. Union-A. I think these are all 64. Yeah, but anyway. So is it fine to submit a project at Linux? Yes. Using linux.cecs.pdx.edu is fine for submitting. We'll talk more details about submitting in a couple of weeks once you have something to submit. But there are more details in the README if you want to read ahead about how to submit. Okay. Again, though, is anybody not seeing Java 17 or later in their environments when you do a Java version? Java version. Okay. It's all right. I'm going fast. Thanks for blowing the whistle on me. If Java isn't available on your command line, actually, I don't even know what you do these days to. Well, on your local machine, yeah, download the JDK. If it's not available on your Linux machine, on the CS environment Linux machine, let me know. Right. If you are, for your personal machine, because we will be using both your local machine and the remote machine, I recommend that you get it from Adoptium, which provides nice installers for Windows, actually for all the platforms and stuff. It makes it super easy. If you're running Linux on your laptop or on your development machine and you want to use RPM or something else, great. Just get yourself a Java. It should be pretty straightforward. So after you've got the checkout of the Joy of Coding repository that you created and made sure that you've got Java, the next thing you need to do is run the survey script. So this is okay. So the survey script runs a Java program. This will be the first Java program that's run, and really this thing does. The survey script is there for a couple of things. First of all, it makes sure that your environment works as expected, that you've got Java and that you can run it on the PSU machine. So that's super important. It also generates a file called me.xml. Oh, sorry. What the survey program does is it asks you some questions about yourself, and then generates this me.xml file that contains that information that you added. The survey program also sends that XML file off to the grader, and then I run. Then I go and get that file and I import it into my gradebook. This is really important because this is how I know who you are, and it also provides information to the scripts that create the projects, like the koans and the project one and things like that, so that things are nice and consistent, and that really enables a lot of the automation I have for submitting your projects and making sure everything is consistent. So once you have a checkout of the repository here on the PXU Linux machine, you'll run the survey script. By the way, these scripts will not work on your personal machine. I started out doing that, and it just became a big problem because people are like, "Oh, I use Z shell, and your script syntax isn't that right." And I'm just like, "Okay, forget it. I'm only going to support it on the PSU machines because I really want to make sure that these first steps that you take in the course are as smooth as possible." So we'll run the survey script here on the PSU machine. It'll ask you some questions. First of all, it'll say, "Hey, yes, you are. Here's what version of Java that you're running." It will ask you some information on yourself. So your first name, I'm David. My last name is Whitlock. My nickname, call me Dave. This is an important thing. The Unix login ID. This is sort of what identifies you in the course. It's used for things that we'll see in terms of generating the project. We'll see that later, but that's an important thing. It'll ask you for your pdx.edu email, and so then here is mine. Got that right. And it just asks you some information about yourself. I'll say I'm a CS major, that I'm enrolled in the undergraduate section. Oh, and it asks if it's okay to record my GitHub username. This helps me out a lot if you tell me this. That way, in a couple of weeks when we are working on, when we're doing pairing and mobbing, we'll all be using the same repository. I need to grant you permissions to that GitHub repository. And so if I know what your GitHub username is, I can do this all ahead of time. It'll help you it'll help you engage in those activities faster. So I do encourage you to send me that information. But if it's not something you want to share, if you want to do it later, great. We can figure that out later. And then just a couple of questions. What do you hope to learn in the course? I'll say I hope to learn a lot. And is there anything else you'd like to tell me? Well, my answer is no. But if there's something you want to tell me about, like, oh, hey, I did something cool with Java in the past. Whatever you'd like me to know, that's good to know. And I think that's all the questions. Yes. And so then let's see here. Yep, it told me that it generated the me.xml file right there. That's pretty awesome. It verifies all the information that I sent. And I said if it's yes, then it goes ahead and yep, it goes ahead and sends the information off to the grader via email, and then also sends me a copy of it too. Question came in, a couple questions came in. Someone who is new to PSU and hasn't experienced the department machines yet, where can they learn more about it? That's an excellent question. Actually, the way you do it is working with the cat at PSU. I don't have that on here, but I have a link off to their page. And actually, you all probably know this way better than I do. Oh, here it is, the cat's Linux page. So, oh, it looks like things have changed. Oh, good. Thanks, Jada. Excellent. Great. Yeah, there's some other things, and I also recommend this page too for getting started. Let's see here. For the MKEX Unix login ID, would that be the username for the SSH login to Linux as an example? Yes. Yeah, so for me, that is Whitlock. So like when I logged in to the machine here, it was Whitlock at linux.ccs.pdx. Great questions. For folks following at home, any questions, anything that I've done that worked unexpected, it works in a different way for you that was unexpected? And don't worry if like you aren't, if you aren't following along, it's why we record these things. And so yeah, you can take care of it. Actually, tomorrow, so that on Wednesday you can, actually please make sure you can get this working. Fill out the survey before Wednesdays to make sure you've got your environment all set up, because we'll be working with this environment for the rest of the course starting on Wednesday. Okay. So this has generated a file called me.xml. As you can see, there it is. If you do a git status, oh wait, another question. My username on GitHub would not be the same as the first last if I wrote into record it. Would it then prompt me for my GitHub user? I'm not sure what you mean, Michael. Like, what operation are you performing? And feel free to come off mute if it'd be more effective to have a
Yeah.
voice-to-voice conversation.
Yeah, so it stated that like is it okay to record your GitHub username of David Whitlock?
Yeah.
I don't see where you're like prompting the GitHub username. It's just giving a straightforward
Oh, it detects it for you.
oh, it detects it. Oh,
Did it
okay.
detect it, did it detect it correctly for you?
Oh no, I haven't done it yet because
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. Right. Yeah. The script is or the program's smart enough to look in the current directory and sort of figure out what your GitHub username is.
oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. Software. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yep. Oh, I'm sorry. AI. Is that what you say now? That's what it was. No, it's not. It's very not artificial, just artificial intelligence. Anyway, great, great, great. Okay, so we created the me.xml, and if you do a git status, you'll see that there is a new file that has been staged for addition called me.xml. And so now I'm going to commit that to Git. So for those of you who are familiar, haven't forgotten, or haven't realized it, I guess it must have done the git add. Maybe the script does the git add automatically. Committing will take well, in this case, a new file that you've added and put it under revision control, add it to the, yeah, add it to the GitHub, the Git repository. So added the me.xml, and we'll just commit that there. Great. And now I've committed it here to the local repository. I want to push it then up to GitHub with a git push. Great, it said it's pushed it, and now if I go back to this right here and reload, go back up to the top, we'll see that there's now a me.xml that was added just now, right? So this is what you do. You make a change locally, and then you push it up to GitHub so that you can then use it in, well, everybody can see it, and that you can use it on different machines. Oops. Okay, I've added the me.xml. And let's see here. Oh, we've got plenty of time actually. So let's. Well, what do you want to do? Do you want to pause here and have you all work on your own, or do you want me to show you how to create a project so that you can do that on your own, just to make sure that works in your project, your environment too? That's yeah. That's why I'm asking. I want to make sure that people are don't want to get too far ahead, but then again, everything's also recorded, so you can check it out later. Oh yeah, right. Yep. I think I kind of do want to create a project next. So actually, I'll say this. This step is optional for you to do on your own. That student project is just an example. Um, I'll be using it, I guess, next week to show off test-driven development. So you don't have to follow these steps, but if you want to verify that yes, like Maven works in your environment and that you can build Java projects, This is something you can do now. Otherwise, you'll wait until, well, I guess you'll see it on Wednesday also when we create the koans project. So we ran the submit script notes. Okay, let's see here. Oh, question from Ed. Sorry if we just covered this. I'm seeing it's okay to record your GitHub username of null so you can be added to the blah blah blah. Since uh, oh, I wonder why it's becoming why it's null. That's interesting. So that's probably a bug um, in in the program is not detecting the GitHub username. So Ed, and actually, if you can come off mute too, so we can have a conversation. I mean, so then let's see here. I mean, you did clone the repository, the GitHub repository, to the PSU machine, right?
Yeah, I cloned the getting started repository.
Oh, the getting started repository, or the one that your copy of it that you made.
Well, I cloned getting started, and I'm in that getting started directory. Is that what you mean?
Uh, yeah. I mean, so okay. So let me make sure that I'm understanding what you did here. So you went to the Getting Started repository, and I'll just follow through here. And you said use this template and create a new repository of your own.
Oh, you know what?
Correct?
I did not do that. I did that on my local machine, and then I did
Excellent.
it.
Okay.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, that's a really important step. You do not have permission to push changes to my Getting Started repository,
gotcha.
so you don't want to work in a checkout of that. Instead, what you want to do is create your own repository.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Yep, nice, nice, nice. Yep, thanks for speaking up about that. Actually, yeah, that'd be interesting. I could probably. Well, it's interesting that detected it as null. I wonder why. So, I mean, for instance, I could change the survey script to, complain if like, hey, it looks like you've made a clone in the Joy of Coding PDX um, organization, and then have it fail that way. One of the things that I've learned, like I've done a lot over the years, and actually the Getting Started repository has been very helpful, like these scripts and stuff, is that I try to add bulletproofing to all of this, um, well, primarily for your benefit, right? And so then if there's something that, like all along the way, I'll get feedback from students like that. It's like, hey, I tried this, this unexpected thing happened. It's like, oh, well, if I can prevent that, if I can make it so that either you get like, a valuable error message, or that we make it hard to make mistakes, then then we go faster, then we make it easier. As a matter of fact, really, this whole repository is about making it easier to get started, and making it so that you have fewer mistakes. Because again, over the years, I basically went from written instructions on how to do these things to, well, more scripts to automate the hard stuff. Still with written instructions. Okay. Let's see here. So again, we've done the survey. Let's just take a moment to, yeah. So then, did you make a checkout of your copy of the getting started, or did you? Well, you switch repositories. So like, yeah, you went through and you did the step of creating your own summer 2025 repository, correct? Okay, great. Oh, and you cloned it. Are you sure? Yeah, I think it's, yeah. Is like the directory called getting started? Okay, that's probably not what you called yours, or was it? I mean, did you call yours getting started? Did you call it right? Okay, yep. So I think that's a clue, or it's a signal that, yep, that you cloned the wrong one. Good, good, good. So here from the repository that's in your, that's it's under your name. You probably call it something like Joy of Coding Summer 2025. You clone this repository by getting the appropriate URL from here, and then doing a git clone of that on the PSU machine. Appreciate those of you who are following along at home and asking these good questions. It's probably the kind of thing that other people are going to stumble across when they do it later tonight or tomorrow. Better to learn now. After you've run the survey program and create the me.xml, then you'll be able to run the other create projects scripts. As a matter of fact, if you try to, and there was a question about this earlier, if you try to run the create project scripts before you run the survey, it'll fail saying, oh, there isn't a me.xml, because the scripts that create the projects are use that me.xml file. So you can run the create student project. It doesn't take any arguments. And what this does is it creates a new Java project using Maven. Yeah, do you have a question? Oh, there are some instructions on creating public keys. Yeah, it's not super easy. Yeah, I recommend, I think the link off of here, the connecting GitHub with SSH, I'm going to ask Copilot. Let's see here, about SSH. Boy, they moved it around. There used to be generating a new SSH key and adding it to SSH agent. Yeah, this is probably, yeah, so this is a good place to start. And sorry, did you see where I linked that from? That was from this authenticating with SSH keys here in the README. So if you search for SSH keys, you'll find that. And then it just links off to some GitHub documentation that will walk you through the process. It looks like there's a, this. Are you on the Zoom? Are you on the Zoom? Okay, that's cool. I'll just put it. I'll put it in the class Slack instead. Here's where you can learn about managing SSH keys for GitHub. Yep, lots of good stuff there. What I did over here is run the create student project script, and that generated a bunch of code. It did a bunch of stuff that's outputted here. This is all with the Maven tool. And if we do a git status, we'll see that there was a file called palm.xml that was modified, and there was a new directory that was added. And so I'm going to add both of those to version control, add those to Git. I'm going to say git commit added student project. And we'll go into more details about this next week, but there are a bunch of files that are there now. And what I can do now is I can, let's go back to the instructions here to follow along. We can run a command called maven w verify that will build that Java project. And don't worry if this is something that seems a little foreign right now. We'll be seeing lots more of this in the coming days as we learn how to build Java projects from the command line using Maven. It downloads a bunch of stuff, a bunch of dependencies that it needs, and it goes through and builds the project. We'll be seeing this build cycle a lot of many times, and so then It compiles the project, it runs the unit test for the project, it builds the artifacts, et cetera, et cetera. Yep, and this is the student project, which is optional for you guys. You can do it or not. You can wait until Wednesday when we do the koans and get the same thing. That's all, yeah. Yeah. And then, oh yeah, the question that came in, hey, have we done anything more in the survey? Yeah, we just did the student. We just built the student project again. What this does is that it'll make sure that you can run Maven in your environment. Just make sure you got the right version of Java, that it can download all of the dependencies, things like that. And these are just the first steps of getting started with the course. It gives you an opportunity to try, again, test out your environment, make sure that you can do the fundamental things. To get started. So another question came in. We'll be going over Maven more. I don't exactly see the main point. Is a dependency verifier like prerequisites? Excellent question. We'll be using Maven a lot at the beginning of the course, but it's pretty complex. And so then there's lots of other stuff we want to learn about first before we get to learning about Maven, which isn't until, oops, I must have missed it here. Where is it? Maven. Okay, yes, session 8. So, about halfway through the course, then we really dive into it in detail, but I can say a few words about it now. So Java applications, as we'll see over the next couple of sessions, have lots of aspects to them. You've got source code, which is the application. You've got source code, which are the tests. There is a build process, right? You guys have probably learned about how to build C programs using GCC or whatever. Maybe you've learned about make files, those kinds of things. Software of any size requires a build process. And the projects that you work within this class are, medium size. They are not Hello World, right? That you probably learned about if you've done a Java. I'm sure the first thing you did is learn about the Java C command line and how to run the Java VM and things like that. I used to, talk about this stuff a million years ago, but I'm like, that's probably not the first, that's not appropriate for the first day. For the first day, let's just get started with things. Let's try to make it easy, and then come back to the details of how all that stuff is built later in the course. So what Maven does is it takes care of building all of the source code, downloading the dependencies that you need. So for instance, you'll need a library for running unit tests. You'll also eventually need a bunch of libraries to run the web application, things like that. So then, so Maven takes care of all of that. And so then, is Maven similar to a makefile? I would say yes, in that it is the thing that specifies how the application is built, but that's sort of where the similarities end. So unlike makefiles, it's higher level. The tools are more complex, and you don't have that crazy syntax where you have to have tabs and colons and all that kind of stuff. So, but it is a build system, much like Make is. Okay, great question. Thanks for asking it. So what we just did is we ran the project here. We did that Maven verify, which goes through, and what verify does is it basically goes through all of the build phases of your project and makes sure that all of your tests pass. For tonight, that's probably a good enough description. We did that. It was all nice and clean because we got a build success. That's super awesome. There's something else I was going to show, but before that, I want to pause again for questions for anyone that's playing along at home or has a question about what they've seen. I'm now going to open another window so it's clear that I'm doing something very distinct from what I'm doing before, because now I'm going to work on my local machine. And so then, actually, I'll use a different size font so it looks even differenter. So now what I'm going to do is I have my my code. Actually, did I push the code up to GitHub? I can't remember. I don't think I did. Yeah, I did not. So I pushed a bunch of stuff. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to work over here on the right, and this will be on my local machine. So here on the left, I was working on the PSU machine. Over here on the right, I'm going to work on my local machine. So if I do the host name, it'll say it's my laptop. Right? Okay, great. And I'm going to go to a directory, my PSU directory in Git, and I have a similar David Whitlock directory. It's on my local machine, my personal machine. It's in PSU directory. There's no PSU directory over here. That's how you know on a different machine. And I am going to once again clone my repository on my local machine. So I did it on the PSU machine. Now I'm going to clone it on the my local machine. I have my local machine set up to use SSH keys for GitHub also. So I'm going to say git clone of it over there. And I've got Joy of Coding summer 2025. And I've got all the stuff that I've created. I've got my me.xml. I've got my student. All this stuff is there. And what I want to do here is I want to make sure that my project builds on my local machine also. So I'm going to run the same Maven W for the Maven wrapper, verify command, and just make sure that it builds over here too. Because this is what you'll be doing with the code that you write in this course. The code that you develop will most likely be developed on your personal machine. On Wednesday, we'll see IntelliJ, which is a nice integrated development environment, and IDE for building Java code. It makes it so you can visualize your code very easily, navigate between different parts of it. You know, I love it. It makes everything much easier. However, when you submit your code for grading, you have to submit it from the PSU machines. I do this because I want to make sure, because I grade the project, or rather the projects are graded, the projects are graded on the PSU machines. I want you to submit from the PSU machines so that you can verify and make sure that stuff builds for you before you submit. So one of the primary uses of GitHub in this course is to take the changes that you make on your local machine, send them up to GitHub, and then pull them down on the PSU machine and run them there to make sure they work. Yeah. I highly encourage you to develop on your own machine where you can use like a real IDE and work quickly. It is technically possible, although not for the Android project. You can probably do all the other projects using VI and everything on the PSU machines, the Emacs, whatever it's your favorite text editor. However, I think you'll be losing a lot of the experience of an IDE. I really encourage you to use these tools. Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, you make a good point where, yeah, these days in IntelliJ and CLion, and I think if you use VS Code, you can do the same thing. Yes, you can work on remote files. It's gotten way better. Like 2-3 years ago, it was kind of hinky, a break for people. If you want to do that, great. However, I encourage you to get used to this workflow where you are committing changes up to, committing and pushing changes up to GitHub frequently. I think the feedback that I've gotten from students over the years is that technique has served them better because it forces them to make those checkpoints. And then once you start, and then also, if you commit often, if you commit, like every time you make your unit test pass, and then if you go off and start making big changes, you break stuff, you can easily revert, and you can just go back to that safe point, previously, where I think people tend not to commit as often when they are just working on remote source code, and that can get them into trouble if they sort of dug themselves into a hole. Okay. So great, it passes over here when I run Maven W, and so then excellent. I think we're in a good point to start working on that student application, but that is a task for a week from tonight. Not tonight. So to reiterate what we've done here since we come back from break, we have created a repository in GitHub that is created from the template from the Getting Started project. So we said, hey, create me a new repository. We created a private repository, mine public, yours will be private. That will be in your organization associated with your username. And so mine is called, David Whitlock, Joy of Coding, Summer 2025. And then we started looking at the README. I paraphrased a lot of this stuff. I do encourage you to read it. I put it out there for you to understand what this repository is used for and how to use it. And then what we did was we made a clone of this repository on the PSU machine. And in order to do that, we need to make sure that we can authenticate with GitHub, because there's going to be a private repository or require authentication. And and so you do that by using either SSH keys or by using a personal access token down here. Once you're able to authenticate from with GitHub from your client machine, you get a repository of it, which actually I don't call out here. I guess I do say git clone. But anyway, you can then go in that directory, and then it's time to run our first Java program, which will be that survey program. So you need to make sure that your environment is running the appropriate version of Java, at least Java 17. And we showed how to run the survey program from the PSU Linux machines. If you're going to be using Java on your local machine, on your personal machine, and I encourage you to do so, make sure to install the latest version of Java Development Kit on there. So the first thing that you do is you run the survey.sh script, which will run a Java program that asks you for some information. You provide it with the information that creates a me.xml file, which is what enables you to do more things in the course. And then add that me.xml file to Git and push it up so that it's available to the scripts. And then you are able to start creating your projects. If you'd like, you can create yourself the student project just to make sure that you can do it. Otherwise, on Wednesday, we'll be creating the koans project in our repository, and that too will exercise all the workflows that you need to get started in the course. Okay. Any questions, observations, feedback? Yes. Sorry, install Linux on your local machine. So if you've got like a Windows laptop, how can you run Linux with it? Yeah. Well, actually, no. You can run Windows. I'm not going to show you how to do it, but no, all the tools can be run on Windows. I've had dozens of students over the years that have used Windows. It works just great. It's a little different. Some of the commands are a little different and stuff. Although I recommend that I think when you install Git on Windows, you can create something. You can use something called Git Bash, which gives you a Bash environment. I'm a Linux person, or I'm a Unix person. I like having the Unix command line. I can go really fast like that. So I like having that. But if you just want to use like either PowerShell or just the command line, CMD or whatever, you can do that too with on Windows, and everything ought to work just fine. And same thing with IntelliJ too. So yeah, actually, in general, I mean, I guess some people can get like the whole dual boot thing or running a Linux VM or whatever. Not necessary for this course. So running all of the applications like Git and Java and IntelliJ natively in Windows work just fine. It'll be much more performant than trying to get it to work inside some sort of virtual environment. Good question. Okay. Anything else? Nope. Let's call it a night then. Thank you. So, good deal. Looking forward to next time. So, day after tomorrow, we'll be back here on Wednesday for session 2. This is where things start getting a little bit more interesting. We'll be starting to dive into the Java programming language. And we'll be doing this by working through a set of small coding exercises called koans. And so then I think it'll be, actually I found that over the years it's a really good way to learn about the programming language in bite-sized pieces so that by the time you're working with your first project, you're well-versed in the language. Look forward to seeing you all then. Thanks for your time, everybody, tonight. Have a safe one, and I will see you on Wednesday. Bye now.
Thank you.